Hey guys, we're at Beyond Limits Training in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm here with Emily Duncan, superstar.
Hey. Oh, thank you.
And you just recently did the Body Space spokesmodel.
Yeah, the bodybuilding.com spokesmodel thing. Yeah.
How'd that go for you?
I got second place and I was signed to the team, so it was an amazing experience. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm going to teach her about blood flow restriction training today. You said you've had some interest in it?
Yes, I've had some experience with it and interest with it, so I'm definitely really excited to learn more of the details of it. All right, Layne, so what is blood flow restriction training? What are the benefits of it and how do you do it?
So blood flow restriction training is basically it's not cutting off blood flow, but you're restricting not blood flow to the muscle, but the venous return of blood flow back to the heart. So it seems to do a couple things. Overall, what you get is essentially the same effect of heavy training without training heavy. So you can use a light load, like anywhere from 20 to 50% of your 1 rep max, and still get the same hypertrophy as you would lifting heavy. So it's not better than regular training,
Right.
but for people who are injured or maybe don't have access to heavy weights like they're traveling, hotels, that sort of thing, you can still make gains or maintain without lifting heavy weights. So it gives you options.
Yeah.
We usually use, originally was used blood pressure cuffs.
Right.
We used it. They've shown that you can use knee wraps and quick release medical tourniquets and get basically the same benefits as the really expensive Katsu cuffs. But essentially how it works is through a few different mechanisms. We're not totally sure. I defer to my friend Dr. Jeremy Layne, who does most of the major...
He's put in a lot of work for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So he does most of the major research on this, and what they believe is happening is you're causing a fluid shift. So, whereas normally that blood flow would wash out of a limb, you're causing blood and metabolites and fluid to accumulate in that area, the limb, and that seems to have some sort of anabolic effect, whether it's cellular swelling or you're giving those autocrine hormones that are released. So your muscle actually releases its own IGF-1 when you work out. And that actually seems to be the dominant like your systemic IGF-1 doesn't actually seem to do a whole lot for muscle growth. It's the autocrine response the muscle releases itself. It's called MGF, mechano growth factor. And so maybe another hypothesis is that by not allowing blood flow to essentially wash that out, it gets longer time to interact with the receptors. And then one other possible explanation is since you're restricting blood flow, you're pre-fatiguing the type 1 slow twitch muscle fibers that require oxygen. And so you're pre-fatiguing those, preferentially targeting the large type 2 faster muscle fibers. So the reality is it's probably a combination of those things. But yeah, it certainly does seem to have an interesting effect.
Awesome. Oh, it's exciting. Yeah.
And a lot of people, what they'll obviously ask, like, is this safe? Right? Because you're restricting blood flow. What I can tell you is it doesn't seem to be any more unsafe than regular training. So people hurt themselves training regularly. There doesn't seem to be any more incidents of injury using blood flow restriction when it's done properly than regular training. And this has been done in hundreds of studies on thousands of participants. So we feel relatively confident saying that it's a pretty safe way to train.
All right.
Let's get it done.
Let's get into it.
You're always going to wrap proximal to the limb. So for anything upper body, you're going to wrap here. For anything lower body, you're going to wrap here. That means even calves, forearms, whatever. One of the big questions is, okay, can I do it for chest, or can I do it for back? Or can I do it for glutes, for females, right? Well, you can't directly blood flow restrict those areas because obviously they're closer to the heart than where you're wrapping. But you do seem to get an indirect benefit in that, like let's say if you were doing a chest press, okay, you had your arms cuffed, you would, your triceps would fatigue faster than normal. So your chest would have to take over. So I don't recommend really using it for those muscles normally, just because you're not getting that much extra benefit. But if you were injured and couldn't train heavy, then maybe for central muscles like chest, back, glutes, you can get some benefit from BFR. But for the most part, I tell people use it for the limb muscles. Your arms, your legs, your calves, those sorts of things. But you're always going to wrap here and here. Never wrap here, never wrap here. So for legs, I
What
use
do we
just
got?
a basic knee wrap.
Okay. These are like powerlifting style knee wraps,
Yeah,
correct?
these are. You don't need something super fancy. You know, you can go buy a $20 pair of knee wraps and they'll do the job for you. And the how stiff the cuff is and how wide it is matters.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, we say about a 7 out of 10. So 70% of maximum tightness, but it depends. If you have a super spongy knee wrap, you might have to wrap tighter. Or if you have something that's thinner, you'd have to wrap tighter.
Yeah, especially around the leg because it'll roll over.
Right, and if it was thicker, you'd have to wrap looser. So if you ever used knee wraps for arms, actually, it's way too tight because the cuff is so thick it restricts more blood flow. So all those sorts of things matter. So what I can have you do is just put your leg here, and that's going to help you back. So you're going to try and get up as high up on the hip as you can. And usually what I do is I go over, I give like one good tug, take it around, give another good tug, around, another good tug. And then you get to the end and you just
tuck it right in.
Right. So it's a little bit more difficult when somebody's wrapping for you to get an idea of how tight it is.
Right.
So just give me feedback when I do your other leg wrap. You know, if you feel like it's tighter or looser. And so a big way to know if you wrap too tight is you should feel kind of uncomfortable, but you should not be in pain before the exercise starts. If you're in pain before the exercise starts, the wrap's too tight. How does that feel?
It feels about even.
About the same? Okay, good. Yeah, we ended up about the same spot. Yeah, exactly. Now remember, we're going with a light weight, okay?
It's like how it feels when you get off a horse.
Right. So do you feel kind of a fluid shift?
Yeah.
You should. So, but are you in pain?
No.
Okay, so that's exactly what we want. We want to feel a fluid shift. So you're going to feel that fluid accumulating in your legs.
Kind of tingly almost.
Yeah. But you're not going to be in pain.
Right.
So now you will be in pain once the exercise starts because of, if you've ever heard of a skin splitting pump, this will be the best pump you've ever had.
Yeah.
So the rep scheme I like to use is approximately 20% of a 1 rep max. Now obviously on something like a leg curl, you don't really know your 1 rep max.
You don't really go for those.
So you just want to use a weight that you can get about 30 reps on your first set, then 15 on your next 3 sets.
Okay.
And we're going to rest 30 seconds between each set.
So very short,
Right, so the wraps are going to stay on for the entire 4-set cluster. So
that's the mistake that I used to make because I would take them off in between.
There's some evidence that you still get some of the benefits, but you really let those byproducts accumulate when you're not taking them off. Now after 4 sets, we'll take them off. Now you can do like a little bit heavier, all the way up to 50% of your 1 rep max, doing like 15, 8, 8, 8. But Dr. Lineker really likes this stuff. That's what we're going to do.
We're gonna go with Jeremy.
Yeah. That's like a funny, hilarious feeling.
It's like the breakaway pants. Like whoosh. Oh man.
I do not recommend knee wraps for arms. They're too thick. If you are going to use knee wraps, I would cut them in half down the middle. But these are quick release medical tourniquets. They're way easier and they're cheaper, to be honest. They're $6 on Amazon. We're going to tighten it down here. So these you can go pretty tight on because the material's so thin. You can go a little bit tighter, about an 8 or 9 out of 10. That's all right? Okay. So let's try the same rep scheme. You may not make it to 30 and that's okay.
Oh, this is 27. We're getting to 30.
Oh, okay. 3, 2, 1. just easy.
I'm not gonna be able to fit in my jacket for dinner. Shoot.
That's it. Hey guys, thanks for watching our workout here. Emily, what did you think of blood flow restriction training?
I absolutely love it. It's a great pump. It's definitely difficult. Like you feel very fatigued during, but the recovery is relatively quick. Like once you get it off, you're great. But it's a fun new way to train. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was very impressed with it, how strong and how much stamina you had. Like,
Thank you.
What is your background in sport for my viewers who may not know you?
Actually, I started dancing when I was 1.5. So I grew up a dancer, typically in classical ballet and contemporary, from the time I was 1.5 until I was 17. Yeah.
And how old are you?
21.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, what are your plans now?
I'm hoping to. I'm not announcing show dates yet, but I'm hoping to step on at least one national stage this year. Hopefully, I only need one. I came very close to my pro card last year by just like a sheer matter of a few points. I'm hoping that this year there's a card, there's an IFBB next to my name after the end of this year.
And I always like to. I know you're a flexible diet.
I am. Yes.
So.
I learned about it from this guy right here.
I was about to ask where you learned about it from. I was not leading the witness. But what made you? So you're doing kinesiology, you said.
Correct. Yes.
Exercise science. What made you kind of get interested in more science-based? Because most of us begin bro, and then we some of us make it out of that. Some
of us emerge.
So what did you start bro? And if so, what kind of caused you to shift towards science?
I did start very, very bro because I didn't know any different. Especially in the area that I grew up, the bodybuilding community.
We're all young and confused.
It's very, very bro. So then when I went off to college, that's when I really dove into health and fitness, and I actually started college as a dietetics major. So that's where I started to learn about actual macronutrients, specifically just in like introductory nutrition. But I remember I was just looking up. I was just learning how to strength train and everything like that. So I would just Google, and so I came across bodybuilding.com to build workouts. And then actually I was just floating around bodybuilding.com one day, and I stumbled across actually one of your articles on like flexible dieting and training and everything like that. So that's where I found him, and eventually he didn't ask me to say this at all. This is 100% true. I found one of his articles. I was like, oh, this guy seems pretty with it, and it just seemed like a better alternative as a college student. Like I was in a dorm room. Like you can't just eat clean, meal prep. Like I was literally trying to meal prep in a kitchenette downstairs. Like I was on the 3rd floor. I would go downstairs and like meal prep my food, and it was just not working. Yeah.
It's funny you bring that up because the way flexible dieting started for me was I would look at the diets in the magazines, and I was in college, and I was like, well, I can't get wild caught salmon or whatever it is, right? I can't afford that. But they would list the protein, carb, and fat at the end of the diet. I said, well, I can hit those, right? And so that's how it started out for me. It wasn't any grand scheme, but it's interesting how we kind of found it the similar way.
Same way, and you just learn like it's so much more sustainable. It's so much more fun, and just like especially from a lifestyle perspective, you can do pretty much anybody can do like a 12-16 week contest prep. You can have that willpower for so long, but it's really, especially like in the off season when true athletes are made, like whether they blow up because their diet has been so restrictive, or whether they can stay in relatively reasonable shape by having a more sustainable diet approach. It just keeps you, I feel like your longevity, it preserves that.
Well, I love meeting young people like you who have a real passion for the sport
and
for science and whatnot. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to do in the future.
Oh, thank you so much.
Emily.
You as well. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
All right, see you guys.